Okay, Assalamu alaikum everybody. In this episode, I want to talk about something kind of a little bit more deep about forgiveness and hurting people and that route of healing yourself and others, and how you can make sure that you're not bleeding your wounds on other people. This is something that's quite extensive, so inshallah I'll try to keep this as short as possible, but I talk a lot, so let's just see how this goes. And yeah, I hope that this can help somebody change the way that they view things. You know, in this generation, even us, me, like everybody, we've all become this way where our ego gets in the place when somebody hurts us. And when they come back to make amends, it's like, oh, you came back now? Like, I don't need your apology. You think I care? And I've noticed that a lot. It's like, some of us, we mature from that phase and we forgive. But then there's certain people that I know that are even older than me, and they're just like, oh, look at you coming back to say sorry now. I don't care about what you say. And it's like a drama cycle again. And that's why I think a lot of people are scared to apologize, because they know that they will be made humiliated. They will be humiliated. That's just how it is, and that's the sad reality. And it sucks that we have become like that. Our ego gets in the way because we view the people that are apologizing as little. We belittle them, and we think that since they came and apologized first, they're hilarious and they are horrible individuals and that they admitted they're wrong. Reality is sometimes we're wrong too. And the biggest proof of that is the ego that we hold when someone comes and says sorry to us. Now, I'm not saying I've never done this before, and I'm not saying that, other people haven't either. It's something that we've all done at one phase in our life, maybe back in middle school, when we were young or whatever. We all do it. And it's like kind of unavoidable. And it sucks because, there are certain people that at one point in your life, after you hurt them or they hurt you, you guys have lost connection. And there's physically nothing you can do now. And I really need you guys to focus in on how important and frustrating that is, because a lot of us, we're angsty in high school and middle school, and we hurting people, saying sorry to one, saying to that. Like, it's just like a whole drama mess, right? And maybe when you're like 25 and you're a lot more religious and on your deen, and you realize the importance of not hurting people, that's when you're going to want to go back and say sorry. Because it doesn't matter if it was 13 years ago. It doesn't matter if it was 6 years ago. You hurt somebody, and you were probably the reason they cried. And I'm not saying that we all haven't done that at one point. We have, and nor am I trying to victim blame anybody. But we've done it, and it's unavoidable. And it sucks, because we should have done better. We should have known better. But at certain phases in our life, we're ignorant. That's just how it is. We're not uneducated, we're ignorant. And that is the thing about growing up. A lot of phases in your life, you are truly ignorant by choice. You want to feel like you are really big. You want to feel like you have a lot of ego. You want to feel like your ego matters. And it does. But the reality is, if your ego takes you away from God and it takes you to become more cruel to people, it's a problem. And I wish I could tell you guys how many times I've seen people say sorry, and then like people will be making fun about it on like their Snapchat stories, and like they'll be telling their friends like, oh my god, so and so came and said sorry to me, that's so funny, like, oh yeah, she knows she messed up. Like, at least she knowed. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people that apologize, and when they know they messed up, even if they did the worst damage to you, you should forgive them. And here's exactly where I'm going to go into this. This is going to be a little bit of as to why you should forgive people. You should always forgive somebody. And I know that we always hear this, but the few things that I want to mention is that the day of judgment is very scary. And I pray that if anyone has ever hurt me, I've forgiven them. Whether they've come to say sorry to me or not, whether I've talked to them or not after that, I've forgiven them. You know why? Because on the day of judgment, if Allah's taking account from them for hurting me, I can't bear that. Y'all know how scary it is to stand in front of God, and then God's taking account from people, because everyone's going to be, judged accordingly about what they did. And let's say I didn't forgive somebody, then that loan of my pain is on that person. And physically, on the day of judgment, they will have to pay for it. Unless, they repented and whatever, that's a whole other thing. But if they didn't know, and then it's like that loan is just on them. And that's terrifying. Because I know that I wouldn't want that for myself. And we always hear how, like, if you want mercy from God, you should forgive people. And I believe in that so strongly. And anytime I used to hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, but, so-and-so was mean, so-and-so was like that, so-and-so was like this. it doesn't matter how so-and-so is. There are certain people that aren't Muslim, and so they won't understand your moral principles and the deen and the way that you choose to run yourself and the way that Allah has told you to run yourself. They won't understand that. So it's like, if you're a Muslim and you've hurt somebody and you still, by chance have contact with them or something or whatnot, or you haven't talked to them in so long, text them. Tell them you're sorry. And I know it could be hard. And if you don't, you have lost contact with them or things have gone so far out of hand that you can't repent. The reason why I'm saying this is because it's terrifying. It really is. That's the only words I can find. It is so terrifying to stand there in front of God and tell him that I hurt this person, I was naive and I was ignorant, and I knew it was wrong, but I never said sorry after that. To the people that refuse to forgive, dude, wake up. I'm so serious. Wake up. You're gonna regret it so badly. Because if you are expecting Allah to forgive everything, why aren't you trying your best to forgive people? You should be so grateful that God does not hate you for what He knows about you, for what you say to people. And yet you're out here hating some other female or some other guy because they called you some mean names. It's like, if we're going to continue to live life like this, practically everyone on earth is your enemy at that point, And it's like, you're going to have to forgive. You're going to have to open up your heart. And there's some people that I've seen that are like adults, like they have kids at this point, and they still have this mindset of, oh my God, forgiveness, you had one chance, so childish. How could you mess up? It's like, it's toxic to them to forgive. There's nothing wrong with forgiving. If you don't want to give someone a second chance, that's okay. You need to know your boundaries. It's okay if you don't want to become friends with them. It's okay if you don't even want to be acquaintances with them. It's 100% okay. But it is okay if you forgive them. And that's something that we should all do. We should always forgive them. Because on the day of judgment, you don't want your pain to be a debt on someone else. When it comes to healing from all of this, that is something that I feel like is something that really derives from pain. When you are in pain, that is when you heal the most. And I know this may sound weird to people because people think when you're happy, you're healing. Not really. When you're in pain, you're healing the most. Because when you're in pain, you are forced to focus on your emotions. You're forced to cry like 5 times a day. You are forced to turn to God a lot of times because you don't see a way out. And you just cry and you cry. You're hurt by somebody. Somebody hurt you. You didn't forgive anybody when you had the chance. Something. Whatever it may be, whatever debt that you did to somebody or someone did to you, you physically can't handle it. And there's been a lot of times where it could even be your best friend. Like, they hurt you, and then now it's like, how do I heal from this? Because, maybe you spent your entire life with your best friend. Who knows? That's a basic example. But what you need to take forth from this is that if you've hurt somebody and you haven't been able to say sorry to them, you have got to make your attitude in a way that you are kind to each and every single soul that you meet. I'm not saying you got to be perfect, but you have got to become more kind to every single soul you meet. Because if you are guilty that you hurt someone like 6 years ago and you are not fixing your act now, then that's a problem. You have got to represent Islam and the beauty of what Allah has told us and what the Prophet was like, peace be upon him, through your actions and how you treat others, even if they're disbelievers. There are some disbelievers who are so strong on their faith, but after meeting a Muslim individual, they get so interested just by their attitude to see what is this religion that makes this individual so peaceful and so calm and kind. And you want to be among those individuals, trust me, you do. Because the way that you treat people is really how it'll come back to you. And I know, it's typical, we hear it a lot, karma, whatever. But it's true, the way you treat people will come back to you. And sometimes you can hurt people consecutively for years, and then when it comes to chop you up, it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna hurt really badly. And sometimes there's really nothing you can do to get out of it, except, of course, repenting and turning to Allah. So the few things that I want everyone to take away from this is that if you're in a state of being in the power to forgive somebody, forgive them. It doesn't matter if they hurt you. It doesn't matter if they did that. You don't gotta be friends with them again. Forgive them, because you don't want to be the reason that they have some debt on their name on the day of judgment. And if you are in a position where you can say sorry, say sorry. Because a lot of times we've hurt people, and it's important that we take accountability for it. And most finally, if you have a very big ego and you struggle to do both or either or anything, realize that your ego is not gonna do anything to anybody except you. It doesn't take you away from God. You have got to humble yourself. Because when we keep this pride that we are greater and we are better than everybody, you will find it really, really hard to go through life. And most importantly, you will find it really hard on the day of judgment. So may Allah remove any ego and any negativity from us and help us become among those that He's truly so proud of and among those that represent Islam really well.